think we'll be okay.
I think we're going to survive, and we've got Todd Pyro live on Long Island, who's going to be in the thick of it all morning long, so you're going to get a taste of that.
You know, I will say it's interesting to see the snow from down south, like different parts of the Carolinas, Florida,
Tallahassee.
people who aren't used to seeing it.
Florida, North Florida. I mean, it's amazing to see it that far south. All right, good morning to you. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday morning. I'm Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Jillian Mealy. Thanks for starting your day with us. This music still playing for you. Let's get straight to this Fox News alert, though. A monster winter storm barreling up the East Coast right now, unleashing snow, ice, and hurricane-force winds.
Yes, it's a powerful storm. The Sunshine State, Florida. Looking more like a winter wonderland, at least in North Florida, that is. Snow falling in Tallahassee for the first time in almost 30 years.
The brutal below freezing temperatures turning water fountains into icicles, and that same system now setting its sights on the Northeast.
Over a dozen states now under a blizzard warning, and the forecast just got even worse overnight.
We have live Fox News team coverage. Let's get straight to Janice Dean, tracking the latest path. Good morning, Janice.
Good morning. Yes, it's starting to snow here in New York City. Already on Long Island, we're seeing snowy conditions, and the blizzard is going to start to crank this morning up until towards this afternoon. This is a daytime event, so of course a lot of schools are closed and people are urged to stay off the roads. If you don't have to go into work, people are being told don't go into work, just essential workers on the roadways all up and down the coast, because, as you mentioned, a dozen states under blizzard warning. Here's the reason why. Here's why some folks are calling this a bomb cyclone, but I must tell you that's not a meteorological term, but it just means bombogenesis, which is what is happening to this deepening low, dropping 24 millibars in 24 hours, and in this case, that is going to double. So doubling that, 48 millibars, 50 miles in 50 millibars in 24 hours. This is an incredible dynamic system and a very powerful one, and a blizzard. So what does a blizzard mean? Here's the criteria. It means that conditions are going to deteriorate. We're going to see snow and blowing snow, less than a quarter-mile visibility, and at least 35-mile-per-hour winds. And in this case, hurricane-force winds along the coast. Not only the snow, but we're going to see beach erosion and the potential for some flooding, coastal flooding as well. So there are your blizzard warnings. Also, winter storm warnings all up and down the coast. We are talking millions of people under either a blizzard warning or a winter storm warning. And, you know, yesterday we were thinking, okay, some of these storm totals could go up. They have substantially. In some cases, we could see over a foot of snow, maybe 18 inches. The good news is it's a quick mover. The bad news is very cold air, Arctic air behind this, and if you have power outages along the East Coast, we're going to be talking about sub-zero temperatures, not just wind chill as we head into the weekend. So people need to be concerned. You need to know what you're going to do if your power goes out, where you're going to keep warm, unfortunately, back inside.
And Janice, you said hurricane force wind gusts. Yep. Is that what you said? So 75 miles per hour or greater?
That is a good possibility, especially along the coast, especially for Cape Cod and the islands up towards Boston, once this storm gets cranked up and it bombs out.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, Janice, we will certainly be paying attention throughout the day. Thank you.
You got it.
The monster storm not only powerful, but it is moving fast.
Yeah, millions of people bracing for near whiteout conditions that are going to look like this. Very beautiful, but also very dangerous.
Yeah.
Todd Pyro picks up our team coverage from Islip, that's south shore of Long Island in New York, where snow is already beginning to fall there. Hey, Todd.
Hey, Rob. Hey, Jillian. Good morning to you. You guys get the hurricanes. I get the snowstorms in terms of our coverage assignments. But one common denominator between both of those is the wind. About 5 minutes ago, we almost lost our camera. It almost tipped over. And more importantly, we almost lost Sam, our producer. As you can see behind me, there's not a lot of snow right now. It was coming down a little bit stronger about an hour ago. But you can see we're in a little bit of a lull right now. The road here, Sunrise Highway, is extremely clear. You can see the blacktop, and this is a road, a major thoroughfare that goes from one end of Long Island all the way into New York City. So going to be a very heavily traveled road for those people who do decide to brave the blizzard conditions and head into the city. From the Sunrise Highway to the Sunshine State, Florida. getting snow during this bomb cyclone. Very, very rare for them, like you've heard. And also Georgia, as the storm moved up the coast. Talk to your friends who live in Georgia. They've gotten snow before. That state does not handle snow well. It causes major havoc on the roads. Back here in the New York City area, preps were underway throughout the course of the last couple days to prepare for this. And then the storm, like Janice said, is going to head up into Boston. While they are always prepared for snow, this one is going to be a biggie. And remember, it is the wind, it is the blizzard-like conditions in this storm that is really going to cause a concern. We can handle snow here in the Northeast, but again, it's the hurricane-like weather that we're probably the most concerned about. So, Rob and Jillian, hurricanes are something you guys know about, right?
Right.
Oh, yes. And
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, make sure Sam is okay out there.
Yeah, that's right.
Sam's fine.
Okay.
Sam's tough.
All right.
She's from the Strong Island. She knows how to deal with this stuff.
She's a tough girl, and we decided to bomb cyclone both of you guys, so I'm glad you can handle it. Todd, thanks so much. We do have a lot more news to get to. It was a very interesting Wednesday. A Fox News alert now, Steve Bannon facing major backlash from President Trump after accusing Donald Trump Jr. of treason.
The president's lawyers threatening legal action against the former White House chief strategist. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, D.C. with more on this intensifying war of words. An interesting day, Griff.
Yeah, this got vicious quickly, didn't it? Jillian and Rob, good morning. President Trump's attorney has issued a cease and desist letter demanding Bannon stop making disparaging remarks against the president and his family. This all began after this bombshell book released early with quotes from the former chief strategist suggesting, among other things, the president's son and son-in-law committed treason and were unpatriotic in reference to the Trump Tower meeting with a group of Russians in 2016. Bannon also quoted as saying, "They're going to crack Don Jr. like an egg on national TV." Now, the White House responded with a blistering statement saying when he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. Steve had little to do with our historic victory, which was delivered by the forgotten men and women of this country. Steve doesn't represent my base. He's only in it for himself. Bannon continued weighing in on this bitter feud on a satellite radio program last night.
The President of the United States is a great man. You know, I support him day in and day out, whether going through the country, giving the Trump miracle speech or on the show or on the website. So I don't think you have to worry about that. But I appreciate the kind words.
Perhaps the harshest words were directed at Donald Trump Jr., who responded on Twitter saying Steve had the honor of working in the White House and serving the country. Unfortunately, he squandered that privilege and turned that opportunity into a nightmare of backstabbing, harassing, leaking, lying, and undermining the president. Steve is not a strategist. He is an opportunist. This book by author Michael Wolff is set for release next Tuesday. We'll see if this feud continues. We're also told that Bannon was not kind to the president's daughter, Ivanka. So quite a lot here in a vicious exchange. We haven't seen anything like this since perhaps Kanye and Taylor Swift. Guys?
This is a lot more important, though. All right, Griff,
Yes.
Thank you so much. All right, 9 minutes after the hour, new hope at getting to the bottom of the Trump dossier, the brand new deal that Republicans just struck with the DOJ.
And should people collecting unemployment be drug tested? The Trump administration thinks so. Is it a good idea or a waste of taxpayer money? We debate it next.
And they're known for creating chaos and violence at rallies, but apparently the DNC deputy chair wants to promote the Antifa movement. Stay tuned.
Good Thursday morning and welcome back. You're taking a look at the current wind chill temperatures, and regardless of where you are, it is cold out there. A lot of places along the East Coast are seeing snow, but the big thing you have to keep in mind, and Janice Dean has been warning us for days, watch those temperatures. If you get power outages as a result of this storm, a lot of those temperatures are going to be below zero. So make sure you have a plan. We will check in with her later this morning. In the meantime, the House Intelligence Committee announcing a deal with the Department of Justice finally to turn over subpoenaed documents related to the anti-Trump dossier. Chairman Devin Nunes saying they will be turned over in the coming days after threatening to hold the DOJ and FBI in contempt. This announcement coming just hours after FBI Director Christopher Wray and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein met with House Speaker Paul Ryan in a closed meeting. The FBI has been accused of anti-Trump bias by top agents during the Hillary Clinton and Russia investigations. Paul Manafort is fighting back against special counsel Robert Mueller and his Russia probe. President Trump's former campaign chairman filing a lawsuit claiming the investigation has gone too far. Manafort, who was indicted on money laundering charges along with his deputy Rick Gates, says he was wrongly charged and that Mueller overstepped his boundaries since the alleged crimes happened years before the 2016 election. Both Manafort and Gates have pleaded not guilty. Rob?
All right, should those collecting unemployment pay be drug tested to get it? The Trump administration now looking to bring back and even expand on a rule that was killed by Congress last year to do just that. So is this a good idea? Here to debate it is GOP strategist Jen Kearns and Democratic strategist Alex Lawson. Guys, thanks so much for coming on this morning. Jen, I want to start with you. Tell me, in your opinion, the advantages of a rule like this that forces a drug test for you to claim your unemployment benefits.
Well, President Trump has made it very clear since the first day of taking office that his goal is to get America working again. The best way to do that is to have a workforce that is ready to work, and the best way to have a workforce that is ready to work is to ensure that they're not high. I think it's a pretty simple concept. Look, President Trump, the tone starts at the top with him. He has been very open about sharing his own personal story about how he personally does not drink. He has shared a very touching story about how his own brother struggled with addiction. He has put opioid addiction treatment at the cornerstone of some of his public policy priorities. And look, this is a president who really does want to put America first and put the American worker first. And I believe he's really looking out for the American worker here.
Alex, you say that this idea is nonsensical. You don't like it. Tell me why.
Look, the best way to get Americans back to work is to create jobs. This will not do anything like that. Unemployment insurance goes to people who lose their jobs through no fault of their own. That's a very important phrase in who gets to collect their unemployment insurance. So to me, this is just a distraction from everything else that's in the news today. And, you know, if I don't support any mandatory drug testing except possibly for elected politicians in this town. I think I could get behind that.
Okay. So, Jen, he makes an interesting point. People that they didn't lose their job because they were doing drugs. They didn't lose their job for doing something wrong. They were likely just laid off. Why should they be drug tested to have to get their, rightly due unemployment?
Right. Well, I think this is about workforce readiness. Going back to President Trump wants to create this economy and has created this economy coming into his first year in office here. He wants to make sure that the American workforce is ready for the next challenge of this century. Look, this is very similar to the drug testing for welfare recipients and others. I think a great solution here would be to do random drug testing, not mandatory drug testing. It's been very effective, even in Trump's own organizations, the Trump hotels. It's very well known that they do random drug testing. That keeps a lot of employees from partaking in the recreational drugs that some young folks would normally partake in. So I think that's a good novel concept here. The administration's looking at it, and they're going to put a rule out for public comment. I think it's a good thing.
Alex, let me get your response to that. I mean, if applied to welfare, food stamps, those programs, is that more or less offensive to you than to unemployment?
It's not about offensive. It's about the coercive use or the use of the coercive power of government to intrude on people's lives. This is a constitutional issue. We're not talking about what businesses do with their employees. They can have random drug tests in a private setting. We are talking about the state here and what the state should do. So not only is it a complete waste of money, which time and time and time again we see that this is a waste of taxpayer money. This is a boondoggle. This is that absolute fraud, waste, and abuse, which people talk about all the time. It's misdirection, and it is unconstitutional. So it is a big issue, but I just want to get out there that it does not actually save any money. This is not a giant problem that we're dealing with.
Look, it's not unconstitutional not to ask people not to do drugs if they're taking government check. I think.
But that's not what they're doing.
All right. Wait. You guys you both make great points here. Thank you so much for coming on this morning. We're out of time. We appreciate it. Jillian, over to you.
It is 19 minutes after the hour, a critical flaw that could cripple your security. How nearly all computers and phones in the world are at risk of being hacked. Melania Trump firing back after Steve Bannon's bombshell new book claims she was devastated when her husband won the election. Carly Shimkus is here with the First Lady's response. And let's take you to a live look at Chesapeake Bay Bridge in Maryland after we say hi to Carly. You can see the snow falling down there right now. We will have an update for you on the bomb cyclone coming up a little bit later.
All right, social media exploding over the war of words between President Trump and his former chief strategist.
Republicans rushing to the president's side as the left claims Steve Bannon as their new champion.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115 here with what an interesting day it was, wasn't it?
Yes, certainly was. Just a couple days into 2018, already very exciting. So Steve Bannon's comments sent shockwaves across social media yesterday. Now, at the heart of this spat is Donald Trump Jr.'s controversial meeting with that Kremlin-linked lawyer. Steve Bannon called it treasonous. President Trump is now firing back with a cease and desist letter. But Anthony Scaramucci is now a part of this whole story. Remember those expletive-filled comments he made last summer? Well, he is now standing by them because in them he attacked Steve Bannon in part. Now he says, I said what I said in the summer. Take out the expletives and pay closer attention. By the way, President Trump is doing a great job. Now, a lot of people are calling into question the credibility of the author, Michael Wolff, including one Twitter user who writes, I believe it is another red herring for the media, and they have taken the bait hook, line, and sinker. Maureen on Twitter also says, why is everyone throwing Bannon under the bus when the reporter involved is corrupt? And this is what the left wants, discord. Well, it certainly has caused a lot of controversy so far. This story, of course, not over.
Well, speaking of controversy, Melania Trump is firing back right now. She's not too happy.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this controversial book claims that the First Lady was very upset on election night. She did not want her husband to win, saying Melania Trump, who had been assured by her husband that he wouldn't become the president, was in tears and not of joy. Well, the First Lady's office is now firing back with this statement saying this book is clearly going to be sold in the bargain fiction section. Mrs. Trump supports her husband's decision to run for president and, in fact, encouraged him to do so. She was confident he would win and was very happy when he did. Now, the one thing that really ticks the president off is when people attack members of his own family.
Yes.
So there you have it.
Yeah, certainly so. Okay. This is interesting. Praise for Antifa from the DNC.
That's right. Yeah. Controversial tweet coming from Congressman Keith Ellison, who appears to be praising the violent far-left group Antifa. He sent out a tweet saying, at Moon Palace Books, and I just found the book that strikes fear in the heart of President Trump. Check out his smile in that picture. Of course, Antifa responsible for a string of violent protests. Dave Rubin on Twitter says, in case there's any doubt how completely bananas the mainstream left and Democratic Party have gone. Mark Dice, conservative guy on Twitter, also says a terrorist manual should concern the president, especially in the hands of a member of Congress. So there you have it. Sorry to end on a low note today, guys.
That is
seriously, what are you doing?
Aside from that, there's also a huge snowstorm that's going to just ruin everybody's commute.
It's a bomb cyclone, Carly.
Bomb cyclone.
Are you ready?
I don't know.
You got your boots?
Sounds scary.
All right.
I'm ready to go. Janice has been warning us for days. I'm ready.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, Carly. It is 26 minutes after the hour. The Trump administration now showing some new wiggle room with a pathway to citizenship for dreamers. Our next guest breaks down the 3 options and what they mean for our immigration system.
And even lawmakers getting out in the snow that has blanketed the South. The wipeout right outside of Washington. Stay tuned. Woody?
And we're taking a live look right now. New Bedford, New Hampshire, where you can see it's a tough go on the roads right there. It's not going to get any better in the upcoming hours.
Certainly
Janice has a live update in minutes. Good morning and welcome back. Straight to a Fox News alert. Right now, millions in the path of a dangerous monster winter storm roaring up the East Coast.
Yeah, the powerful system packed with ice, snow, and even hurricane force winds at times. Over a dozen states right now under a blizzard warning. And the time to prepare for this is now over.
Our team coverage begins with Janice Dean live on our plaza tracking the storm's path. Good morning, Janice.
Good morning. Yes, we are dealing with a nor'easter here, a blizzard where we have close to 12 states that are under blizzard warning, meaning the conditions are starting to deteriorate now. And the problem is, even when this storm is gone, the snow's not going to go anywhere because it's going to be cold. Record-breaking temperatures as we head into the weekend. So I'm concerned with folks that are going to lose power, and you certainly will lose power, especially if you live along the coast, where we could see hurricane force wind gusts throughout the day today. So there's the storm starting to wind up, going through its process of bombogenesis, meaning that the pressure, the millibars, are dropping steadily over the next 24 hours. We could see incredible dropping of pressure. 48 millibars in 24 hours is something, we don't see very often. So that tells you the strength of this storm system. The visibility is dropping, certainly along the Delmarva up towards New York City, and that's why folks are urged to stay off the roadways. If you are not an essential worker, try to stay home today. Of course, millions of kids are off from school all up and down the coast, and the system will be out of the way by this evening, but New England is really going to take the brunt of this storm with blizzard conditions, over a foot of snow, certainly from Boston northward along the coastline. And again, the cold behind this is going to be the real danger. Once the storm is gone, as we head into the weekend, we're going to be dealing with, record-setting cold, below zero in a lot of these places. So know what you're going to do if you lose power. We are certainly going to see the potential of power loss with hurricane force winds along the coastline, and we're going to deal with coastal flooding, beach erosion, and incredible amounts of snow as we go through the day today. Back inside.
Yeah, certainly will. And it's a little milder right now, Janice, which we enjoy, but the bottom is going to fall out tomorrow. And we're
record-breaking cold.
That.
Record-breaking cold this weekend.
Rough weekend. Janice, thanks so much. All right, this monster storm anticipated to bring more than a foot of snow in some places. That's going to make travel very tough and very dangerous as well. And Laura Ingle continues our team coverage. She's live outside the Ronkonkoma train station out on Long Island at an area that could see some pretty good snowfall totals from this storm. Hey, Laura.
Hey, Rob, how's it going? Well, Long Island Railroad is the largest commuter line in the nation. Over 305,000 people take one of these trains each and every day. That is a lot of people to try and move around in conditions like this. But the railroad says they are ready for this. They've got all kinds of equipment they've been talking about. And commuters we've been seeing out here in this cold, and as Janice mentioned, it is picking up and getting even more miserable. They are bundled up and they are bracing for it. Check out some of the snow plows and some of the salt spreaders we've been seeing in the days leading up to the storm, getting ready for what is happening. Sanitation workers all over the New York area have been gearing up those plows and salt spreaders to help keep the roads open today, as this fast-moving storm is expected to drop several inches. New York City alone has over 2,400 trucks. Now, while the roads are a priority, so is power. Janice mentioned this too. The National Weather Service is predicting up to 50 miles an hour winds out here on eastern Long Island and parts of Connecticut, which means the potential for downed trees is going to be a big problem and losing power. But we're watching the commuters bracing for it right now on Long Island. Rob, back to you.
All right, I'll take it from here. Thank you very much. The Department of Homeland Secretary opening the door for negotiations, saying the Trump administration would consider a pathway to citizenship for DACA recipients. This as President Trump says that he will not make a deal without funding for a border wall. So will we see some sort of compromise? Here to discuss the options on the table is the Hill's White House columnist, Niall Standish. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Morning, Jillian.
Before we get into the options, the possible options here, can you just talk about how significant it is that President Trump is willing to possibly come to a compromise on this, because he really feels strongly about that border protection?
Well, it's certainly a big deal if this deal could be made. Now, he has premised that idea on the insistence that a wall must be built. That's obviously a signature campaign promise of his from 2016. But will we see a full wall? Even some Republicans are skeptical about that. There may be some strengthening of border security rather than a 2,000-mile wall.
So let's get into some of these possible protections for DACA recipients, starting with the pathway to citizenship. Now, explain what this would be, because you're saying this is the most generous option.
Yes, that's right. Under this proposal, basically after some process, people who are now beneficiaries of DACA would become full United States citizens. They would have the rights and responsibilities of any citizen, and that is clearly, as we say, the most generous of the options available. Because it's the most generous, it's the most likely to encounter resistance from people who have a more conservative view of this issue.
Well, and I would say, and tell me if I'm wrong, most likely to see some resistance from the Democrats, because that means they're going to have to really let loose on the border wall.
Well, I mean, Democrats would ideally like a path to citizenship if there was no high price to be paid for it. But the political reality is that there would be such a price, and it would likely be something like support for a border wall, which is just a no-go for Democrats.
So let's go to the next option, permanent residency. And this is equivalent to having a green card, correct?
Yes, that's right. This is the middle ground, at least of the three options that the Homeland Security Secretary laid out. It would give people a measure of long-term protection, but it would not give them full citizenship. As a non-citizen but a green card holder, you don't have the right to vote, for example. So there are certain restrictions on it, even though it would, as I say, give people protection for years in the future.
Right, because green card holders can, over time, apply for citizenship, but the Dreamers would not be able to, as I'm understanding it.
Yes, that's my understanding also. Regular green cards are, in effect, a path to citizenship. You become a citizen after 5 years or 10 years. This, I don't believe, would be the case in this instance with Dreamers.
Okay, and then the last option is residency for a certain amount of time, equivalent of having a visa.
Yes, the least generous option on the table, but one that might be useful in terms of reaching a deal on this topic. And this would simply be a visa that could be renewable maybe once every 2 years, every 3 years. The danger from the perspective of Dreamers is that it could be taken away at any point by Congress. They could just stop the program. And obviously, as with any visa holder, you don't have the measure of protection that even a green card holder has in this country.
Real quick, which option do you see happening?
I would say it won't be the path to citizenship, because I don't think that's politically realistic. Probably one of the two less generous options. Maybe the green card equivalent could be the middle course that they might try to steer.
Okay. Niall Sandage, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Gillian.
All right, 37 minutes after the hour, liberal lawmakers filing a lawsuit accusing Motel 6 of helping federal immigration agents to find illegal immigrants doing their job. The brand new legal battle that is just beginning.
And right now, Florida is covered with snow, but college campuses in the Sunshine State have been covered with snowflakes long before that. See what we did there? Meet the state senator fighting to end safe spaces and restore free speech.
And there's a live look now at Oxon Hill, Maryland, right outside of D.C. Look at that snow coming down.
It is coming down. You can see the wind blowing there, too.
Yeah.
"19 minutes until the top of the hour, and a live look right now in Providence, Rhode Island. You can see the roads are snow covered. If you have to head outside this morning, no matter where you're going along the East Coast, make sure you are careful and make sure you stay tuned into these forecasts throughout the day, because this storm is definitely on the move. The president's controversial voter fraud commission has been dissolved. The executive order turning the issue over to the Department of Homeland Security after the project hit major roadblocks when multiple states refused to hand over data from the 2016 election. The president established